Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roger Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember, you can also get VIP and Shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing. Rebellious like Malcolm. 1, 2, 3, swing it.
Have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, doublets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're a World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
I've been away for 3 weeks. On vacation for 2.
I already did my time.
Saturday night.
Crime.
World Jam Global Radio issues today. I'm back.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. Back in the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the street. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about beating no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison. Prison.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime.
Today we're going to be dealing with the story of Shakur McNear,
I'm trying to get this felony
a young man whose life was taking in his prime, full of potential. And our guest, his mother, Afrika Bennett,
message to all of
is going to be joining us very shortly.
Wide, worldwide. There was not a man I couldn't beat.
Don't forget you can join us live on www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
I had girls all over the street.
You can get us on TuneIn if you've got the smartphone app.
Nothing's changed. The whole
Or you can follow us on Facebook Live and all other forms of social media. My name is Kervin Julian. It's another edition of Issues Today, and we are going out live on World Jam Global Radio.
trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and
I want to say a big good evening going out to all my listeners right across the globe.
I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time, already did my time. I paid for my crime, already did my time.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Very shortly we're going to be talking to mother and public speaker Afrika Bennett, whose son Shakur McNear, his life was cut very short.
With this living hair.
A young man with so much to live for.
Trying to cope with this living hair. Yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am. Trying to cope with this living hair. This living hell, this living hell.
Afrika Bennett joins us to share an extraordinary journey in getting the truth out about how Shakur McNear was gunned down in his youth. Witnesses tell a totally different story to the one reported by the police. And today, we do our best to bring you the real truth.
Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Stand by as we get ready to talk to Afrika Bennett live on World Jam Global Radio.
And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into
On the talk show that makes a difference, Issues Today.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We're back! Live and exclusive on World Jam Global.
All those drive-by killings, stop them.
Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And tell that friend to tell another friend. This is Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio. We're going out live right across the globe.
I'm trying to get this felony off my back so I can get my life on track and have the right to vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide, and put down those knives. Stop stabbing each other.
As this story begins to unfold,
Yeah.
believe that you're going to be as shocked as I am. Oh, well, that stopped prematurely. Sorry about that. Anyhow, it's time to introduce my guest, the one and only Mr. Afrika Bennett. How are we doing, Afrika?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm doing good on today.
Okay, would you like to take this opportunity to give the audience a bit of an idea of who you are, where you're from, and what you're about?
Hi, I am Afrika Bennett. I am born and raised in Laurinburg, North Carolina. I'm a mother of 4, 1 deceased. I'm a high school graduated in '93 from Scotland High School. Right now I am just trying to get my story out so that I can be a part of the change that's going to take place within the world. I'm a single mother. My oldest is 23. My twins, which are 19, which is a boy girl. I had 3 boys and 1 girl. My mother is Myra Bennett. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. Reside in Laurinburg, North Carolina. My father is John McCall out of Gibson, North Carolina. That's me.
That's you. And I take it you've also been doing some public speaking over a period of time, right?
I have spoken at churches. I've spoken at different little events that have taken place around. And I'm continuing to use my voice. Yes. So whenever there's the opportunity open for me to speak, that's what I do.
Well, we're here today to talk about the fatal shooting of Shakir McNear, your son, way back in 2013. So we're now talking about 5 years ago, okay?
Yes.
But I take it as there's not a day that goes by where you don't miss. He would have been 21 this year, right?
Yes. 21.
Yeah. But unfortunately, his life was cut very short at the very age of 16. 16.
Yes.
And I mean, Tamir Rice was a big one for me, a little 11-year-old child, etc. But 16. Anyhow, let's talk about Shakir, shall we? How do you pronounce it? Shakir? Shakur? Shakur. Okay. Shakur. McNear. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Shakur. I mean, as a mother, you carried him for 9 months before you brought him into this world. What sort of a baby was Shakur?
Well, Shakur was born at 8 months. He was 10 pounds and 5 ounces. Very chunky baby, very happy baby, smart, advanced. Just everybody loved on him because he was so big. And I was just amazed to just even have a baby just that big. 10 pounds and 5 ounces. Whoa, was a lot. But he was healthy, had no health issues when he was born. He was well advanced. He walked early. It didn't take lightly to Enfamil, which is baby milk. He was ready to for the table food immediately. I ain't had no choice because it was so big, it was hard to fill him up. But he was a happy, jolly baby, all in one.
The joys of motherhood. I kind of been present when every single one of my children were born, and it's a real. I mean, it's something that a father can never comprehend. But you've carried him for 8 months, potentially 9 months, but you carried him for 8 months, and then you've brought him out into this world. And I suppose that you had
Yes.
so many hopes and dreams for him as to once they announce that this is a baby boy, you already begin to think, well, what's my boy going to be like when he grows up, and what's he going to do, and what's he going to be, and what was your early recollections of how you felt that he would progress?
I got me a football player. Because he was so big, I immediately said, I got me a football player. And because he was so big, had big shoulders, broad, he went straight into nothing newborn. He went straight into maybe 8 months. Because he was so big, he went straight into a size 2 diaper, not a 1. So it was like having a toddler already because he was so big. He was big enough to be like a little toddler because he was big. So I mean, we had to, even though he was a baby, we still had to handle him with care. But he was heavy. He was heavy. Just knew that he was going to be smart because when he came out, his eyes was wide open. At 2 months, he was already holding his head up, holding his bottle. Just always smiling. He couldn't cry that much because he didn't have a voice because he was so big. You could barely hear him when he cried. But just lovable, huggable, squeezable. I was just looking forward to having that football player, the athletic that was gonna be in him. I knew he was gonna play football. I didn't think he was gonna be basketball, but he was both. He got he had his teeth at he got his first tooth at 6 months, and he actually had 2 at the bottom and 1 coming in at the top by the time he was 6 months. So he was well advanced, just lovable by everybody as a baby. I just embraced him and my oldest one as well. Everybody wanted to keep him because he was the chunky one. That's what they called him.
We might have an audience that are tuning in to listen to how Shakur McNear was gunned down and killed as a very young man, and waiting to hear the evidence. But I always believe it's important for us to paint a picture as to who the child was, who the individual was, so that we can get an understanding of why you're missing him so much and why you're fighting for the truth. So for those of you that are waiting to hear the nitty-gritty and the information as to how he died, that's coming. We haven't forgotten that. But I also believe it's important that we find out who Shakur McNear was before he was gunned down and his life cut short. So please go on and tell me, as you've begun to tell me what sort of a baby was, how was he as he began to progress? Because it sounded like he was progressing very quickly.
He did. And when he made it to Head Start, he was so smart that they wanted to take him out of Head Start and push him on up. When he got to kindergarten, he was bigger than the average kindergartner, but he was smart. He was a straight A student, never got in trouble. I take that back. He got in trouble a couple of times for just walking slow to class. Other than that, he never got in trouble at school. Was all about his schoolwork, all about playing sports. He played basketball. As he got older, all the pounds shedded off of him, and he was skinny then, tall and skinny. So he was tall and athletic. He just loved to play video games. He stayed to himself, played his game all the time, listened to his music. He wrote poems, wrote poetry, wrote raps, loved to draw, loved to hang out with his friends, just a joy child to just be around, period. He was a joker. Kept everybody laughing. Never was a dull day in my house with Shakur. No matter how you felt, if you was feeling down, he was gonna change that, and you was gonna be laughing by the end of y'all conversation. So he was definitely a child that reached out to people. That was a people person. He had a good heart. Just smart, really smart, and well liked by his peers. He was one that stood up for people when they were bullied in school. Um, he just wanted to go on off to school. He actually had a full scholarship to go to beginners art and poets. He would have graduated with honors because he was a straight A student. He would have graduated with honors from kindergarten to his 12th grade year, straight A's. Never had any history with the police. Just a child I would call Job, like no other. Didn't give me no problems. Everybody loved him. He was just outgoing, just all about his books, all about, just trying to see himself get to the next level. He say he want his mom and his pops to see him on TV playing basketball, or to just walk across the stage to get his degree. But he was just a bright child all around. He loved fashion. He just loved to just play his game and just be to himself when he wasn't out in the community playing sports. That's about the only time you would really see him out and about, when he was playing his sports with his friends, mainly basketball, because he loved basketball. Because he was all about writing and just being more focused on his future at an early age. He always said, y'all gonna see me on TV. I'm gonna be famous. He said, everybody gonna know me because I'm gonna be famous for my ability to play basketball. He was like a miniature Michael Jordan. When I say he would write, his writing would be so deep at a young age. You would wonder where he would get all this from. He would be so deep into his writing, and could draw anything you put in front of him. He can draw it detail by detail. He was just an all around great kid. Loved to be outside. I was like, boy, it's hot outside. You're like, Mom, okay, the heat is okay. He'd be outside. He didn't care. He wasn't a child that really. He stayed to himself, but when everybody was outside playing basketball, that's where he wanted to be too, outside, where kids were to be outside versus being in the house. But a lot of his time was mainly focused on what he wanted to do with his life as he got older, and that was to go to school and be a better person, to get that education, to be able to be a provider for himself, and just prove to everybody that, no matter where you come from, you can overcome where you come from. Because we was born and raised in apartments. So as a single mom, he was like, Mom, you everything to me. He just looked up to his dad. He just all around people just embraced him for just who he was, his personality, his sense of humor, his great heart. He would give you the shirt off his back and walk home in the rain if he had to. That's just what type of child he was. He had a great heart, yes.
He sounds like an absolutely remarkable young man. And
yes.
He wasn't your only child, right?
No, he wasn't.
So how was he as a sibling? How was he as a brother, to his siblings?
Well, him and they all got along. At that time when I had Shakur, he had an older brother. They got along really good. He got along with everybody. He was more like one to say, oh no, you're not gonna talk to mama like that. Oh no, you're not finna do this, you're not finna do that. You're gonna respect mama. So he got along with everybody. He didn't really have any enemies, because he was just a caring child, just very well mannered, very well respected, respectful, and he never gave me a problem. He always got along with his brothers and sisters. So, and with anybody that just he would be around, they would look up to him because he was so respectful and so humble and just so caring and understanding. He would take the time to listen to his friends and be one to give advice. So he was just got along with everybody just very well.
So that takes us up to that fateful day. But before we get to that fateful day and start to talk about the circumstances that eventually led to his death, up until that point, what was his relationship like with the police, for example? Did he have any criminal convictions, records? Had he had any run-ins with the local law enforcement?
No, he had no run-ins with the law enforcement. He actually had no dealings with him. Never had an encounter with him at any time at all. He none of my kids have until that day, and I mean he never got in trouble. Just didn't even get in trouble at school except for walking slow to class. That's about it.
So it's going to be even harder for us to be able to explain how he manages to end up losing his life in such a dreadful and terrible way, because this young man sounds not just a remarkable young man. His character, his reputation, his history, his personality is almost without blemish. Now, we never try to paint our children out as angels just for the sake of painting them out as angels. You know, we all know that some of us make mistakes sometimes, and we all, you know, the Bible says that we all fall short of the glory of God in particular. So none of us are perfect. So we're not trying to say that Shakur was perfect, but it's quite evident that he has no criminal history. He has no criminal convictions. He has no run-ins or unnecessary negative relationship with law enforcement. He's not known to them. He's never been pursued or chased by them. He's not known to them as far as a criminal or convict is concerned. And now we're about to explain why a trigger-happy law enforcement officer felt the need to fire 3 shots into the body of Shakur McNair that would eventually take his life. Now, getting on to the issue of the day Shakur lost his life, I've read some of the story, and I believe, and I want you to take us through the events that led to the police being called. Was Shakur at school that day? Was he actually at school that day?
No, sir. No, Kevin. It was on a Sunday.
Okay, so
It was a Sunday afternoon.
I believe from the records that I've read that your older son apparently he had either had a problem with his girlfriend, or the girlfriend's mother and father assumed that they'd had a problem. But take us to the story as you know it, as best that you can.
Okay. It was on a Sunday. I had just got out of church, roughly around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I got home, and everybody was in the house. Me and my kids were all in the house. My grandbaby was there, and my oldest son, baby mom. My oldest son and his baby mom was downstairs, and everybody else was upstairs. Shakur was outside next door at our neighbor's house. My oldest son and his baby mom were got in an argument because she was sending nude photos to other guys online, and he walked in and seen her. And I guess at that point is when they started arguing. So I went downstairs and got my grandbaby and had her to come so I could take her home. And she called her parents to tell her parents that my son had struck her when he had hit her iPad, and her iPad hit her in the ear, and her ear was bleeding. So as she called her parents, they they called 911 and reported that their daughter that had got struck by her boyfriend at that time, and I was trying to get her in the car. So we all, me and my twins and my oldest son, was walking outside, and she was cursing and saying little negative things to him, and they were just going back and forth with words. As I'm trying to get her in the car, Shakur came over to help me put the baby in the car, strap his car seat down. By the time I was backing out of my driveway, the police pulled up. Officer Hunt pulled up because she had called. They had actually got several calls before he had actually got there. And as Officer Hunt was coming down the hill, he didn't have his lights on or anything. He hopped out of the car, and he hopped out of the car, ran up to my car, and had me to stop. So that's when we all got out of the car. My oldest son was standing at the top of the driveway, and Shakur had walked back over to the neighbor's house. And as Officer Hunt hopped out of his car and started approaching my car to stop me, as we all got out, he and her parents had pulled up in their truck. Then they hopped out the car, so everybody was just basically standing out then. And Officer Hunt went over to the girl's father and was getting ready to arrest him, which he was like, no, not me, it was him. So he pointed to my son, and so Officer Hunt walked over to my son and immediately put him in handcuffs and started walking him. And as he was walking my son to the back of the car, not even asking what had happened, he had his shades on still. Officer Hunt had on shades the whole time. As he was walking my son, and as my son was going on, they was talking, and the young lady's father kept walking and pushing on my son. And I was like, don't let him hit my son. He's underage. Don't let that grown man put his hands on my child. And by the time he got my oldest son to the back of the police car, he got him to the back passenger door, where he reached. As I was telling him, don't let this man hit my son, I was walking beside the young girl's father at that time, trying to keep him from keep pushing on my son, because the officer didn't do anything. So the officer reached for my hand, and I pulled back. And then I was like, I haven't done anything. So he reached for my hand again, and I pulled back. And he left my son at the foot of the back passenger door to come behind me. And I turned around and I immediately took off running, because I said, I haven't done anything. So when he got to me, I had ran from the middle of the road to the sidewalk, where he then tackled me and threw me down on the ground. And I was like, I haven't done anything. And as he had me down on the ground with his knee in my back, he was like, be still. I was like, well, I haven't done anything. And Shakur was still in the neighbor's yard at this time where I fell. I was in the yard where Shakur was, but Shakur was, I'm going to say, about 30 steps away, maybe 30. Yeah, I'm going to say about 30 steps away from me. And Officer Hunt got off of my back, and he stood up and pulled his gun out, and he was waving it around. Get down on the ground, get down on the ground. So he pointed it at my twins and made them get down on the ground. And then he didn't make the girl parents get down on the ground. He just made my twins get on the ground, because I was already on the ground. And at that time, then he turned around, and I was like, well, I haven't done anything. What's wrong? Al, my oldest son, was still at the back of the police car, just standing there in handcuffs, not in the car or anything. At this time, Officer Hunt still had on his glasses, dark shades, doing all this. And then he as he got up, as he turned his gun and he was telling everybody to get down on the ground, he he turned and Shakur was walking like just I guess walking, and then he stopped and then he was like get down on the ground. And as Shakur was throwing his hands up, that's when he shot him. And Shakur fell like maybe a couple of feet from me. And I was like, oh my God, you shot my son. You shot him. Why would you do that? Don't let my son die. And Shakur looked at me and he said, Mama, he shot me. He shot me for no reason. And at that time, we all was on the ground. My oldest son was still standing at the back of the police car, just in handcuffs, standing there. The girl parents was standing there in a state of shock because I guess they didn't know what to think or what to say. Why did he shoot? He didn't have a gun. And by the time he did that, his camera didn't even work. His camera never came on until he threw me down on the ground. His camera didn't work at all when he was telling us everybody else to get down on the ground. His camera did not work even when he shot Shakur. Nothing worked. Only time when it worked is when backup came, and another officer came up, and she was like, "Why did you shoot this young man?" Officer Hunt words were, "I was scared." And at that time, they put everybody in handcuffs and everybody in the back seat of different police cars that came up. And it was, I'm going to say well over 10 police officers that came then, and they all huddled over in the neighbor's yard and were just standing there. So all of a sudden, we leave. They take us all downtown. They took my twins and took them downtown in separate cars, put them in handcuffs. They did not take the girl's father and her mother or her downtown. They only took me and my kids. And at that time, we sat there a good 45 minutes in the car and watched my son, watch Shakur lay there on the ground, and nobody did anything.
Was there no attempt to resuscitate him, or did the paramedics were they called?
They were called, but by that time they was taking us up the hill, leaving out of the community then. So we didn't get to see anything else.
But you said you was there for like 45 minutes or so in a car, right?
Yeah, but yes, but it was so many people. It was hard for the ambulance to get down the hill.
Right.
It was so many people had done came, so we sat there. We did see him cut his clothes off, but we couldn't really see a whole lot. We sat there, but we couldn't see because they had us blocked.
Ambulance from the time they shot him and he hit the ground, how long was it before somebody went to his body to check if he was dead or alive?
I'm gonna say 5 to 6 minutes.
So
that's just
so nobody knew whether he was dead or alive after he was shot. He was just left on the ground.
No, and just left on the ground.
That's awful. That's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, we witnessed it. I mean, at that time we was all in a state of shock. I was like about to lose my mind because I want this. I was like, please don't let my son die. Please don't let my son die. And at that time, they just picked me up, handcuffs, and put me in the car. Put each one of us in a car, and we sat there. The ambulance came, and they was blocking where couldn't nobody see anything. That's why I couldn't really see what was really going on.
I know this is speculation, but you also said that once all the police arrived, they huddled together in the neighbor's yard.
Mm-hmm.
Was that speculation? I'm assuming that to try and get a gist of the story, what had happened. Were they trying to get his account of what took place and why he opened fire?
I'm I'm thinking so because of because he said that Shakur had a gun. Shakur didn't have a gun, and there was no gun in the whole time we was there. There was no gun in the driveway.
Let's raise that question because I was gonna come to that point, but let's raise that question. At what point did he say Shakur had a gun?
I didn't hear him say it. I didn't hear that until we got to the police station and they started questioning us. All I do know that when we left, that we knew he didn't have a gun.
So
But
here's the thing. If they wanted total transparency, wouldn't the obvious thing to have done after he'd shot him would have been to produce the gun that he believed that he was about to reach for, right? And
exactly.
so that you can justify what you just did in front of
Yes.
witnesses that were present at the time. And then when
Yes.
your fellow officers arrived, you can then point to the said gun. And when you were asked, why did you shoot the young man? You can then say immediately, without hesitation, and with total honesty and truth, knowing that the witnesses that are around you witnessed what you witnessed, say, because he was reaching for this gun.
Right.
But that was never said,
Yes.
was it?
That was never said.
So you said that the police officer arrived, and it was a female, right? And she asked him, why did he shoot?
She was a female.
And he said, because he was scared.
Because he was scared.
Okay.
A young black female officer.
What was the? Can you remember her response?
When she came up, she was like, "Why did you shoot that young man?" And only thing I heard him say, because I was scared, and that's all I heard, because that's when she picked me up and put me in the car. So I didn't hear a whole lot after that because we was immediately put in the car.
So here's the thing. So the autopsy would be able to record how long after he was shot they believed that he had passed, he died. So what was the autopsy? What was the report? How long after he was shot did he die?
I cannot remember that.
Because that will also point to the lack of response to his body as it bled out, having been shot 3 times by the officer. Bearing in mind that nobody went to the body for over 6 minutes after he'd been shot and he hit the ground. And I suppose the officer would suggest that he had to get the area under control because he was still in fear for his life, because he had to deal with a mother who had run away from him, a son who was already in handcuffs, and 2 sons, or the twins, who were playing in a garden or playing with the neighbor's yard.
Yes.
I'm just not getting the scene as the police are trying to describe it as anything to be in fear of.
It was nothing to be in fear of, because at that time, the neighbors came out of their house and was standing outside the road while we were all laying on the ground at that time, and everybody was like, the neighbors was like, "Why did you shoot him? Why did you shoot him? Oh my God, he shot him!" And that's when the black officer, female officer, came up and she asked him that question, and after I could just hear my son say, "Mama, he shot me for no reason," and that's the last thing that I heard before they picked me up off the ground and put me in the car, before she put me in handcuffs and put me in the car. That's the last thing I heard until I got to the police station and got questioned, and I asked them over and over, "Is my son okay? Is my son okay? Is my son okay?" And they was like, he's fine, he's fine. Come to find out, 2:45 that morning is when I found out my son had passed, and the hospital wouldn't let my family identify his body. I didn't see my son no more until he got to the funeral home and got embalmed.
One of our audience says, "Ma'am, you said you were handcuffed. Why were you handcuffed?"
I guess because I took off running. They actually handcuffed me. They had my oldest son and my twins. All of us was in handcuffs. Nobody else was in handcuffs. So
answer me this question: when the police arrived at the scene, the report says that they arrived and it was chaos, right? When the police arrived at the scene, right? Was there any violence taking place? Was there any fighting taking place? Was there people attacking each other? Describe the scene for us again. When the police arrived, what was actually physically taking place?
When Officer Hunt arrived, there was no one outside. I was actually in my car. Shakur and two of his friends was in the neighbor's yard, and Algeria was outside, and that's all was outside then.
So the argument, the confrontation had come to an end.
Yes.
Right. So the girlfriend's parents were still outside, right?
They had pulled up when the officer pulled up.
Okay, so
at the same time.
So
yes.
So there was no chaos. When the police arrived, it was in order. It was
in order.
Right?
Yes.
You were getting ready to take people away. You was going to drop her home, right? Irrespective of the fact that, once again, I need to repeat this because none of this was put down in any of the reports that I read. Your son got angry because he walked into the room and caught his girlfriend sending nude photos to other men.
Yes.
And in a fit of rage and anger, he whacked his hand out at the iPad that she was using to send these nude photos, and the iPad ultimately hit her on the side of the ear, to which she is claiming is the assault, right?
Yes.
But nobody, even when the officer arrived, nobody asked what was going on, because
no, he didn't.
The baby mother's father, Tony, had called 911, claiming that your son had already jumped on his daughter, right?
Yes.
Insinuating that he'd attacked her, hit her, beat her, or whatever. But
yes.
Yet, at the moment the police arrived, there was no confrontation taking place. The arguments had stopped. You had dismantled it. You had separated it. You'd got her and the baby in the car, and you was ready to take them home.
Yes.
So why did the officer draw his weapon?
Because the neighbors came out of their house then, and they was all just immediately, all of them just started coming out the house when I took off running in the yard. They all was coming out the house then to see what was going on. But
there was no confrontation. There was no act of violence.
No.
There was no criminal act taking place. So I'm still at a loss to try and understand why he drew his weapon. There was no confrontation. There was no violence. People coming out of their house is no biggie. People are allowed to come out of their house. There was an original issue taking place, but that was now under control. He didn't arrive and see a commotion taking place. There weren't people gesticulating or shouting in each other's faces. There weren't people hitting each other or picking up lumps of wood or bottles or etc. So I'm still at a loss to understand why he felt the need to draw his weapon.
That only thing I could say is he like he said, he was scared. Everybody, it was nothing but African American people outside.
So this officer arrives on his own. All of a sudden sees a whole pile of black people and thinks,
Well, he
oh,
did.
I'm in trouble.
Well, he didn't see him when he came in
No.
because there wasn't nobody out there then. They didn't come outside until they I was on the ground.
These
So with
these
nobody out there.
these are the type of shows that I wish my dear friends Jerry Summers, Jonathan Newton, or Alex Salazar were on this show with me, because I'd be able to ask them the correct protocol. Because layman's terms, as an ordinary man on the street, my understanding would have been the police have been called to a potential domestic violence situation. Their port of call when they arrive is to establish what is actually taking place and who was involved. It wasn't to, you don't just come and arrest
That's
people.
protocol.
Right?
That's protocol.
I would imagine, yeah.
But he didn't even. Protocol also is that you not one officer. It's supposed to be two officers, more than one to respond to domestic violence.
So what he should have done was waited in his car until backup arrived.
Yes.
Okay, but because the situation was under control, because there was not, it was not, he did not meet a volatile situation. See, I'm doing this for a reason, because you said that when the female officer arrived, right, and asked him why he pulled out his gun, right, he said it was because he was scared. But he wasn't scared when he got out of his car, when there was when he was on his own, because at the time that he arrived on his own, without any backup, there wasn't a scene taking place. There was no confrontation. There was no violation of any law. There was nobody confronting one another. There was no people in each other's faces. There was no signs of aggression. So at that point, he had nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly.
So the situation was under control. So from what I can gather, the only person that escalated the circumstance and the situation was the officer.
Exactly.
Because he didn't investigate, he didn't inquire, he just jumped straight in and started arresting people without no evidence.
Yes.
He had no proof that anything had taken place. He had no proof that anybody's rights had been violated. He had no proof that anybody had been assaulted, right? All he had was a 911 call, right, from the girlfriend's father, who had said that his daughter had been jumped on. So, did he not approach the girl who was sat in your car to ask her what was her complaint?
No, he did not.
So at this point, I can't understand what gave him the right to arrest your son.
But it was then when her father had pulled up, when he pulled up, and he was actually going to arrest her father first. He actually went to arrest him first, and he was like, no, not me, him. He was the one that put his hands on my daughter.
But he wasn't a witness. So he was not a witness. He did not witness the act. All he's going on is what his daughter said to him. So the police officer didn't have no right to take his word for it. The police officer needed to speak to the daughter who was making, apparently, the complaint.
Yes.
But you're saying that he never spoke to the daughter.
No, he didn't.
So if he
didn't speak.
So if he never spoke to the daughter to clarify what actually took place, he actually had no reason to arrest your son.
Exactly.
So for me, I can already see him in violation of your son's human rights. And I'm not understanding why you guys actually haven't gone about this in another way, because for me, the officer at the beginning is the one who's created the chaos. Now,
yes, sir. Yes.
Here he is. He's now shot your son, and your son's dead. And somehow they need. So, was your other son the one who was handcuffed for apparently jumping on Tony's daughter? Was he ever charged with an offence?
No, he was not.
So your son, who the police were responding to the original complaint, was never charged with any offence.
And no, he was not.
So that means no offence ever took place.
Exactly.
And your other son lost his life because a police officer lost control of an already calm situation.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about Tony. Because from what I gather, Tony, and we must be clear about this, Tony was the one who felt his daughter was aggrieved. He was the one who called 911, right? He was the one
Yes.
whose daughter had apparently been beaten by your son. And so therefore, he would have no reason to take your side or stick up for your family.
Right.
But he says Shakur had no gun. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Explain to me why he was never allowed to give that evidence.
As far as I know, he was able to. He did write a statement saying that Shakur did not have a weapon. His daughter also wrote a statement, and his wife also wrote a statement that Shakur did not have a weapon. And even with the officers, they saying that he had a weapon. It was later after we all was arrested that a weapon was seen in the driveway, but the weapon never had his fingerprints on it.
No, we're gonna come to that. I'm going to leave the weapon alone for a minute for a very good reason. We're going to come to the weapon very soon. We're just looking at the circumstances as it unfolded on that very day that your son was shot, and the people that were present in that vicinity, and especially Tony and his wife and the daughter who was claiming to have been assaulted, who for no reason, because they don't have no reason to stick up for you and your family, because they're claiming that it was your son that assaulted the woman, but yet they were all prepared, and not only prepared to, they gave sworn affidavit statements protesting your son's innocence and saying, confirming that he had no weapon.
Correct.
In fact, Tony says he never saw a weapon.
Correct.
And from what I gather, no one else saw a weapon at the time.
Correct.
So, bearing in mind that you said that you was there for 45 minutes, right? Now,
yes.
I just want to paint this picture for you. So here comes Shakur coming towards the police officer. He shoots him 3 times. Shakur drops to the ground, correct?
Yes.
Shakur doesn't go anywhere, and no one else comes around Shakur for at least 6 minutes, right?
Yes.
And the first person to go to Shakur after those 6 minutes was who?
The paramedics, I think. I can't remember. I can't remember.
I would have imagined. I would have imagined it would have had to have been an officer, right, around that body, because that body had just been shot 3 times by a fellow officer.
Okay, it might have been an officer. I can't remember.
So in that first 45 minutes before you was taken away, no gun was found, even though Shakur wasn't running away or anywhere else, was dropped to the ground after being shot at 3 times. The police are then saying that he was reaching for a gun in his waistband. Apparently he lifted up his top t-shirt, revealing a gun in his waistband, and was about to reach for it. That's Officer Hunt's testimony, right?
That's his testimony, yes.
Right? But up until 45 minutes, which is the time that you were there, sat in the car after he was shot, no gun was found.
Correct.
And in fact, before nightfall, before the sun went down, no gun was found.
Correct.
And in fact, is it fair to say that the gun was not found in the vicinity until the following day?
Correct.
Again, I repeat, these are the type of shows that I wish I had my fellow ex-police officers who I regard as close friends Jerry and Jonathan and Alex. I wish I would have had them on the show, because I would have imagined that the immediate protocol would have been to have taped off, cordoned off the area. It was now a crime scene. An officer would have been placed on guard in that area to make sure that nobody contaminated the evidence, so that all the evidence could be collected in order for them to be able to carry out a full and thorough investigation. I would have imagined that particular area, especially where your son laid down and died, would have been a matter of great interest and importance in order for them to be able to retrieve the gun to proof off the fact that Officer Hunt fired justifiably against an individual who was not only carrying a weapon, but was potentially reaching for one.
Correct.
And I would also say that would have been their main priority, not to cart you and your other sons and your other son who had allegedly attacked the woman. That wouldn't have been the priority on a minor domestic violence issue. Now the shooting of the individual escalates, trumps all of that, and that now becomes the center point of the investigation, right?
Correct.
So all of their focus, all of their attention, and all of their investigation would have been focused on that area where Shakur lay down and died and bled out.
Yes.
So then
Should have been.
So that begs the question: why did it take them almost 24 hours to find a gun?
Oh, there was now.
No, we know there was no gun. So what was the police response to why it took them 24 hours to find a gun? Has anybody asked them the question?
Well, the lawyer that I had asked the questions. The only response we got, only response that, as far as I know, that we got was, they had that it was kicked, but it wasn't there.
But it was,
I mean,
I
don't.
It was kicked by who?
They said, they said Officer Hunt kicked the gun.
But if Officer Hunt kicked the gun within the 45 minutes that you sat in the car while they huddled with the police officers and tried to get their story straight, surely Officer Hunt would have recalled that he kicked the gun, known which direction he kicked it in, retrieved it, and produced it as the evidence to justify a good shoot.
Correct.
Does that not just make sense?
It makes sense, but hey,
So explain to us how the investigation went, or what happened next.
Upon the investigation, which Fayetteville Police Department investigated their own self, their own officer. They said it. They had found a gun. In the investigation, the gun did not have his fingerprints on it. It was just that my oldest son was, they said my oldest son said something about he can't believe he pulled out the gun. My oldest son said that he was, like the officer pulled out a gun on my brother for no reason.
So hold on a second. So they retrieve a gun 24 hours after your son was killed. Forensic evidence, a forensic investigation proves that there is no fingerprints on that gun belonging to your son. There is absolutely nothing to tie him to the gun. So how do they suggest that? How do you suggest that he put the gun in his waistband?
It was it was not one in his waistband.
But that's where they're saying that he had it, right?
That's what they say he had, but he didn't have one in there.
No, we know he didn't have one in there. But how do they justify finding a gun that has no forensic evidence connecting him to the individual that they claim was in possession of the gun and about to produce it, which is why the police opened fire on him?
Only thing I could say is that's what we just dealing with them investigating their own self, coming up with their own story, and my lawyer handled that. We knew it wasn't now, and um, that's the only justification that I would know, that my lawyer handled majority of that. We just know it wasn't now. We know it wasn't now. What, no fingerprints, what, nothing tying him to a gun. Period. They wouldn't allow my parents to go to the hospital to identify nobody. They wouldn't let nobody go back there, but the police officers went to the back, is what we was told. All we know is they said that they found a gun, but it did not have his fingerprints on it. That's why I'm still fighting to this day.
Okay, let's just look at some of this. Special agent in charge of the North Carolina SBI, Janie Sutton, contacted me regarding an officer-related shooting. Upon learning Mr. Shakir McNear had been shot and injured by a Fayetteville police officer, I made an immediate request for an independent SBI investigation, and I was joined in this request by the police department. After a thorough review of this incident investigation and consulting with the senior staff at North Carolina Attorney General's office, I, along with my senior staff, have determined no criminal charges will be filed against a law enforcement officer for the shooting of Mr. McNear. In reaching this conclusion, we have carefully reviewed all the evidence. And thoroughly researched the applicable law. Now, they also say, while the mother of Mr. McNear's brother's infant child was visiting, there was an argument between the mother of the child. During the argument, Mr. McNear's brother allegedly assaulted the mother of his child. As a result, the alleged assault, the mother of the child called her parents. The parents of the mother of the child arrived. I'm just trying to read for this very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's... At this point, Fayetteville police officer Christopher Hunt arrives on scene and observes approximately 10 to 15 people in the roadway being disorderly. And this contradicts what you said, because you said that when the police officer arrived, there was nobody there. The only time the people came out was after he started to chase you.
Exactly.
Because at that point, prior to him arriving, you had already nullified the argument. And you say that the baby mother was inside your car.
She had got out. Yeah, Officer Hunt had all of us to get out of the car at that time when he pulled in.
But when he pulled up, when he pulled up, you were in the car. So when you pulled up, you were in the car. There couldn't have been 15 or 20 people outside watching a confrontation.
Correct.
And the unfortunate thing is, at no time did he have his dash cam or his body cam operating until after the shooting.
Right.
Has there been any explanation as to why the dash cam or why his body cam was not switched on, or why it wasn't working? In fact, let's try and clarify this. Are you aware of whether or not it was not working or it was not switched on? Have they clarified which one that was?
They just said it wasn't working at that time.
At that time, it wasn't working. So it was
right.
It was faulty. Are they suggesting it was faulty, or
yes.
Or are they confirming it just wasn't switched on?
They just said it wasn't working.
Wow. How convenient that the only time that the body cam decides to work is after he's shot and killed your son. Is that just convenience?
Exactly.
Or is that a cover-up?
That's a cover-up.
Okay. Officer Hunt explains that he would have had Mr. McNear's brother in his police car within seconds of arriving on scene, but the rowdy crowd enclosed around him and blocked him from placing Mr. McNear's brother in his police car. Mr. McNear's mother put herself between Officer Hunt and the back passenger door of his police car. Officer Hunt recalled telling Mr. McNear's mother she needed to back up. Now, you've already confirmed all of this, that took place, right? So you're not arguing with that.
Yes.
That's kind of what took place.
Yes.
Officer Hunt then describes he felt a strong pull on his arm and that Mr. McNear's mother then allegedly struck him in the right side of his face with a closed fist using her left hand. After Mr. McNear's mother allegedly assaulted Officer Hunt, he called for backup units to step it up. Now, answer me this question. Were you ever charged with assaulting a police officer?
They they charged me, but then it was dismissed because there was no evidence. They actually charged him with purge because he lied on the stand.
So, again, he lied again and again and again.
Yes. Yes.
After Mr. McNair's mother allegedly struck him, Officer Hunt grabbed the mother with his right hand while keeping hold of Mr. McNair's brother with his left hand. He must be a very strong person. Because if he can contain you, who's just socked him on with your right hand, right, and then managed to control your eldest son at the same time, then this thing of him being afraid or scared doesn't ring true.
Exactly.
Because it seems like he was perfectly prepared to take you both on by this statement that he's making here. Wow. Officer Hunt recalled that the rowdy crowd remained at his police car in the adjoining yard and that Mr. McNair's brother was still not secured in his police car as he tried to secure Mr. McNair's mother. As Officer Hunt continued to try to secure Mr. McNair's mother, he observed Mr. McNair began to approach him. Officer Hunt recalled that Mr. McNair was approaching from up the street and not from where the crowd was gathered around his police car in the adjoining yard. Officer Hunt believed, based on Mr. McNair's actions, that he had a gun. What were the actions that he's referring to?
I guess when his hands was up in the air. When his hands went up in the air.
Once Mr. McNair changed directions and Officer Hunt thought Mr. McNair had a gun based on his continuous tapping and rubbing of his waistband. Officer Hunt stood up and drew his handgun with his right hand, leaving Mr. McNair's mother. So he hasn't got you under being handcuffed on the ground. Officer Hunt's handgun was no. It doesn't make sense. How could he possibly expect to be able to deal with somebody who's oncoming while he hasn't yet got you contained appropriately yet, leaving you free to attack him again, apparently, because you're attacking him. You just socked him one. So it means that you've got no respect for the law. So how are you going to just lay there and let him shoot your son if you've got no respect for him and you're already attacking him and you've punched him with a closed fist in his face? Officer Hunt gave a verbal command to Mr. McNair for him to show Officer Hunt his hands. But Mr. McNair kept walking towards Officer Hunt and continued to say, "Not today." Do you recall this? Do you recall that, Alfrika? Hi, hello, Alfrika.
Yes, sir. Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, do you remember your son saying "not today" as he was approaching?
No, he did not.
It's all very circumstantial, and this report seems to totally rely on Officer Hunt's version of the events. And nowhere in here, several civilian witnesses were interviewed regarding the events surrounding the shooting. As previously discussed, Mr. McNair's brother told the SBI that Mr. McNair went to the... McNair's brother told the SBI that Mr. McNair had the gun in the front waistband. Mr. McNair's brother told the SBI that Mr. McNair had the gun in his front waistband with a blue hoodie-type shirt pulled over the gun. So they're saying that your son told them that Shakur had the gun.
That's what they said.
It says another civilian witness describes that immediately after Officer Hunt shot Mr. McNair, Officer Hunt kicked a gun that was lying by Mr. McNair. This account of the events is consistent with Officer Hunt's statement that he kicked Mr. McNair. So if the gun was lying by Mr. McNair, how come it took them over 24 hours to find it? They've picked up his body, paramedics have put it on a trolley, they've carted it off, but they've still not been able to find a gun for 24 hours. And this is meant to be a true account of what took place that day. Have you fully read the report?
I have read the report and have been over it, and um I read it often. Actually, I actually have to pull it up online now because mine got messed up. But yes, I have read it, and none of it is accurate. All of it is just lies and lies on top of lies.
I'm struggling to, because that's the reason why I asked us to prepare, and talk about Shakur, the individual prior to this occasion.
Yeah.
You're talking about an individual who has no priors, who was going to be a straight A student, whose main passion and love was football and basketball, who was a good family man, and had no run-ins with the law enforcement. But they're asking you to believe that on this particular occasion, that he's walking around with a gun strapped in his waist and prepared to lose his life to an officer who's pointing a gun at him. Was your son known to use drugs or alcohol?
Marijuana, yes. Alcohol, no.
No, I don't condone marijuana either, but it's still nothing to die for. And in fact, in many places, it's still
Right.
it's legalized and decriminalized.
Yes.
So I don't have an issue with that. But I'm saying that he's got no kind of
No.
wish, no
No.
death wish. He was on no Class A
No.
drugs that would have him on some kind of
No.
trip that would
No.
that would make him want to risk his life.
No.
Even in defense or protection of his mother, he's not a fool. He wouldn't want to
No.
end his life and put you through more torture.
No.
How do you get round? How do you get over reading the reports as I've just read it without pulling your hair out in complete anger?
I actually try not to read it as much as I would like to just study it and dig into it more. I have to
Yeah, go on. You carry on.
I just have to hold myself together at all times. I'm his voice, so I gotta do what I gotta do, and that's me getting to the truth. Telling the truth of what happened is the only way that I'm gonna be able to get through these lies that they have put out here against my son, against myself, against my family. I have to be the one to stand up and continue to tell the truth. That's just what I have to do.
Absolutely.
Can't stop.
So here we are, 5 years after the event, no closer to getting any justice for Shakur.
No.
How is your family coping in the aftermath of what is an obviously real tragedy and a real sad loss for you as a family?
We just have to know that they say they go to a better place. We just know that we have to stand together. We just know that we are his voice, and the only way that we can get through a day or every day since 5 years, it continued to be his voice, and continue to tell the truth, to continue to tell his story, so that others will know that what they say is a lie. And I mean, that's just what we do. We just have to just continue to stand together and be strong. I mean, it's a journey every day. It's definitely depressing. It's definitely been plenty of issues going on, but at the same time, we have to still stand together. We know that the only way we can get through anything is to stand together. We can't do anything if we're divided. So we stand together in everything that we do.
Here's the thing. What is your relationship like with Tony now?
I don't have a relationship with any of them.
How did that relationship end?
I just disconnected myself with. I'm not a drama person, so I don't want drama brought to my house. And as it was brought to the house, it was ongoing with a whole lot of other things that went on. And I just decided to just separate myself from that.
So, is he aware that the drama that he caused that day? I mean, was he ever aware that the reason why there was a confrontation between your son and his daughter was because she was sending nude pictures of herself to other men while in your house?
Yeah. He's aware of it.
Okay.
He's aware of it.
So is he aware that his actions was directly what led to your son being shot and killed that day?
He's aware of it.
Has he ever tried to apologize?
Never.
Does he take any responsibility whatsoever for what his actions caused that day?
No.
And
him and his daughter either.
How has your son dealt with it since losing his brother?
It's a depressed issue. He's depressed. All of them, they have to go through every day without him. So
I would imagine.
Yeah.
That this really eats him up, right?
It does. It does.
That the possibility that even though, in defense, he was angry and he had a right to be angry that day, but I suppose he holds himself accountable in a way.
He does. He does.
So what I'm struggling to see how your son could hold himself accountable for what happened to his brother when the person who created the drama and brought the police to your home, who eventually killed your son, walks around like... I'm struggling with this because in reading the story and reading the reports, I guess that he exonerates himself by giving a true account in support of the fact that your son didn't have a weapon. But he's done nothing else to support you or your family in the tragic loss of your son that only came about because of him and his daughter's reckless behavior.
Right. But they've done nothing but continue to try to bring chaos on because we don't even get to see my grandbaby now. She keeps the grandbaby from us, so we just have to go ahead on with our life.
It's a real sad story. Even as as we unfold it, I've been doing this for 3.5 years now, and with each story I hear, one sounds worse than the next. It doesn't get any easier and it doesn't get any better. But as a mother, how do you support your son who's going through this absolutely traumatic time, blaming himself for the death of his brother, even though we know he's not responsible for it?
I just have to be there for him. I have to be there for him at all times. We communicate. We talk a lot. I'm just there. I'm the mom. I'm gonna be there no matter what. I just have to be there to be a support. Just continue to encourage him and keep him going, just like I do my other ones.
Is this something that the local media in your particular vicinity have ignored, or has anybody ever taken any interest in how the evidence clearly points to a very wrongful shooting by a police officer who panicked?
No, I mean they've done a story, but at the end when the case was dismissed by the state, or they just stop. They don't do anything else. They don't allow you in my community. They don't allow you to do peaceful rallies. They don't allow you to march in the parades to do a start the violence. They don't allow you to have you can anything that go on in the community now. They want to be a part of it. Say I want to have his 5th year is coming up. I want to have a cookout. I want to do a back to school drive. They want to be a part of the police department want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part. I don't want them to be a part of anything that I have, and I'm not going to cause no chaos for you to come back out. Period. For you to come out and cause a scene. So they're not supportive at all. This Fayetteville is. Once the officer do something, they continue to allow them to be still on the force and continue to just go head on. I've actually had encounters with Hunt, and he smirked in my face several times.
And that's
December.
That's after killing your son.
Yes, and I've had an officer to trigger finger me 2 years ago at a store. And I called 911, and they're going to tell me our officers don't do that. We're here to protect. So they didn't do nothing about that. They didn't do anything about Officer Hunt sending me a friend request on Facebook and sent a letter to my house saying that he wanted to meet and talk to me. They wouldn't do anything about that. The media wouldn't even step involved. NAACP wouldn't even get involved. So
do you feel alone in this fight to get the truth out for your son?
I do.
Have you tried to join any of the local groups or organizations, or even the national groups and organizations that support mothers and women like yourself?
Yes, I am a part of their Facebook, and I've been to a couple of events out. I'm a single mom, so my oldest ones just graduated, so I'll be able to do more now. And I mean, I try to get out and participate in different events that go on around. So
have you
try.
Have you ever had connections with two of my favorite people, Yolanda McNair and Donna Hayes?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to connect with them. You can find them on Facebook. There's two groups in particular: Protect Our Stolen Treasures Post, and there's South Carolina Stolen Lives. There are groups. I will put you in touch with individuals that are groups that are supportive of women like yourself. These people are like a family. They come alongside you, and they'll support you putting together events to keep your son's memory alive, and even in pursuit of the truth. There's all sorts of lawyers and organizations that support these groups, and you've got to start getting yourself connected on a national level so that you can continue to tell the story of your son's life, so that he's never forgotten and the police are never allowed to believe that they've actually got away with it. We know that there's very little that recriminates them, but we can't allow them to think that they get away with it and we don't pursue them. So
exactly,
you need to connect with Donna Hayes. You need to connect with Yolanda McNair. You need to connect with these individuals, and they will stand with you. And there are many other people who are part of these groups and organizations. Donna Trezesi is another. I mean, there are many people. Julie Cross, you need to find these people. They will support you and give you information and resources to be able to keep your story alive. There are social media networks and platforms where you can keep your story alive, so that they are not forgotten. You know, you're not forgotten, and most importantly, you don't feel like you're alone. Now, I also believe, and I can hear in your voice and even in the conversations that we have, that you're a God-fearing woman.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, I am.
I would imagine that you lean on your faith quite a lot.
Yes, a lot. I have no choice. That's what has got me through. That's what has got me this far.
And, you know, the funny thing is, in speaking with a lot of the individuals, Candice Brewer is another one. I forgot to mention her. In speaking with a lot of the individuals that I do on this show, I tend to find that majority of them are God-fearing women who have had to stand on faith in order to get them and their family through these traumatic experiences. That most people are totally oblivious to what you have to go through on a daily basis, waking up each day knowing that your son's life was tragically taken from you and you have very little control over that. As a mother who spent 8-9 months carrying him in your womb and bringing him into this world to breathe his first breath of life, it must be a very traumatic experience for you daily, having to go through this, feeling that you're on your own.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So tell us, how do you go through it each day? How does your day start?
Well, I have my other kids that I know that need me and depend on me as well. We're just a close family, and I have their support. We have each other, and I have my church. I have friends. I have family. So I do okay. I do okay. Yeah. I see counseling. I do a lot of writing. So I manage. It's a struggle, but I do it. I have no other choice. I'm his voice. I won't sit down.
You've got to be his voice. But you also have to get into a position when you realize that you're not going to be able to do this all on your own. You're going to need the outreach, resourcefulness of those that have gone before you, those that have come in after you, those that have been doing this during your experience, those that have been able to build up the network of supportive mothers and individuals. You need to join forces with these, so to speak, so that you all can continue to keep these stories alive, in the hope that at one day, because we know, what's done in the dark comes out in the light, and the truth always comes to the forefront at some point, because our God is a vengeful God, is a judgeful God, is a holy God, and and He protects us. So you've got to do what you can, and then let Him deal with what you can't, right?
Yes.
And as I believe you've also got a daughter as well. As how many daughters do you have?
Just one. My twins is a boy girl.
Okay. And so the girl is Shakur's twin, right?
No.
Oh, that's your older son's twin.
No, it's my babies are twins.
Oh, right. Okay.
They're a boy girl. I had 3 boys and 1 girl.
Okay, getting a bigger picture now. So because the girl lost her brother. So how did she lose her brother? How has she coped with the loss of her brother? Sorry.
Coping is hard for me to explain for her. She's more of she has everything that she do resembles him. She dresses like him. She with her twin brother, he has Shakur's spirit to me, because now he's more humble like Shakur was, and he's hungry for his basketball and his football. She gets through her days just knowing that he's still with her in her heart. So she cleans up. They have close friends that they're all with Shakur friends, have taken on them as little brother and sister. So they're doing really well.
See, I guess a lot of people don't actually get to understand the impact and the trauma that this type of thing leaves behind for a family. Shakur was 16 years old, in the prime of his youth. He wasn't even a man yet.
Right.
Enjoying all the things that a young boy would, football and basketball and athletics, and cut down in his prime. And that has a
Yes.
massive impact on the entire family. And I'd imagine the trauma
Yes.
that you all go through on a daily basis is immeasurable.
Ooh, it's definitely been a struggle. Definitely been a struggle with losing his father a year before he got killed to a drunken driving accident. We was dealing with that. Yes.
Wow.
So,
You see, I
and then
didn't know that.
my oldest son is 2016. He was shot 4 times and ran over and left for dead. He's quadriplegic now. Somebody robbed him. So he's quadriplegic. So I have to take care of him now. Um it's been one thing after another. We lost everything in Hurricane Matthew in 2016. So we're starting all over. But we're standing together. We got each other. We're standing together.
Do you know, your story, your testimony is not just open. It's just just a real eye opener. It's a massive testimony to somebody who has stood in her faith, not allowed this to poison her with bitterness and resentment. You have gone through so much. You lost the children's father to a hit and run or an accident. Your son was shot dead by a police officer. And then your oldest son is shot 4 times, run over and left for dead, having been robbed. You lose everything in Hurricane Matthew. And here you are, still speaking in a positive way, still with a positive outlook, not standing or speaking as a defeat, somebody who's living in defeat. But I just can only commend you, take my hat off, praise you for your strength and courage in sharing your story with us today, knowing that by far it's probably one of the most traumatic stories I've ever heard. When you imagine all the other things that you've had to deal with in those close-knit years, the year before you lose the child's father 1 year, lose your son the following year, and a couple of years later, almost lose your eldest son, your firstborn, and you're still having to take care of him while you go through all of this. You're an amazing woman, Alfrika, an amazing woman.
Thank you.
And a very strong and powerful woman in the kingdom of God. And if you can connect with Yolanda McNair or Julie Cross or Donna Hayes or any of these other women and mothers who have all lost children like you have, I'm quite sure that you're going to be a powerful vessel in their organization and their group going forward in days, months, and years to come. So,
Yes.
in the closing stages of the show, what's the plans going forward for trying to bring truth and justice to the killing of Shakur McNair? Is there anything planned?
Actually, I am in the process of getting reopening his case. Going forth with that, and I'm gonna continue to speak. I'm gonna continue to make sure that I use my voice and not sit down. And those are my plans. Is just keep going to continue to get it out there.
Do you have a strategy? Do you have a plan, or do you just take it as it comes?
Right now, I'm working on a plan. It's costly, but I'm definitely working on. I'm writing a book. Just taking it as it comes to me, and so that I can do action, see progress and everything. That's basically where I'm at right now. It's just keeping it out there in the media as much as I can. Letting this thing be worldwide.
So you said that you've got a plan, you've got a strategy, but it's costly. You know, so I get that. But for you, the cost does not matter. It's not going to replace your son.
Correct. Can't stop, won't stop, ain't gonna stop.
How did the community react immediately after?
It was a lot. The community has. Let me see more. This is a military area, so I had a lot of negative things thrown at me. I've dealt with discrimination from restaurants since I've still been here. And then I have some that are very supportive, you know, that his school that he would have graduated from Westover, I was able to march and get his diploma. But everybody is still, some are supportive and some just da. It is what it is. So yes.
I've heard that many a times. And how has the church been for you, with you, your local church?
Great. They've actually been very supportive. Very supportive. Yes. So yeah. I'm still with them.
Yeah. Do you get prayer vigils and you have prayer meetings where you just commit this and what your family's going through?
No, sir. I just go, and they're just supportive people I can talk to and be around, have interaction with other people.
Well, my lovely friend Donna Chizese has just said, is she connected to any of us? Donna, the answer to that is no, but as you will see in the comments, I've already tried to connect her with Julie Cross, and I would love her to reach out with Donna Hayes, Yolanda McNair, and yourself. Can you please read? No, this is a message going out straight to Donna Chizese, who's online now watching the show as we speak. And she will reach out to you, Alfrika. She will reach out to you. She'll send you a message, and we'll start that ball rolling, because you do need the support. It's important. Okay. It's important that you get that support going forward, in order for you guys to be able to, as I said, not just to keep the story alive, but to help you through these difficult times. Because each day is another hurdle you have to go through. We know that it's difficult. But yes, you also need to be aware that you're not on your own, and you don't have to do this alone. There are many other women that these women are connected with, that have gone through what you're going through on a daily basis. They've all lost their sons or daughters at the hands of a trigger-happy police officer.
Yes.
And they know what you wake up with each day. I haven't had to go through what you go through, but I've had to listen to it so many times over the last three and a half years. I almost feel like I'm going through it with you all. It's an honor to share these stories and get them out to the world. But there's just so much more that we want to get people to understand, because when they see the news bulletins, when they read the police reports, they don't get to see the son that you lost. They get to see the person that the police have tried to portray him to be in order to justify their kill. And earlier on, you spoke to us about a young man who had no criminal convictions, who had no history with law enforcement, who was a straight A student, who loved basketball, who loved football, who loved his family. And your eldest son, who was having an altercation with his girlfriend, who was in your house, sending nude pictures of herself on an iPad, and that's what your son walked in and caught her doing, which eventually led to the 911 being called by the girl's father, who witnessed your son being shot dead on his call. It's a sad state of affairs, and I'm not, we know what the Bible says, and I pray that, that he will repent of his ways and he will find forgiveness for himself. But I can't imagine that he's walking around feeling like he's done nothing wrong, because he must know in his heart that what he instigated, what he initiated that day, directly caused the death of your son. Do you think that you've forgiven him, or would you forgive him?
Yes, I have forgiven. I've forgiven. I haven't forgotten, but I have forgiven him.
No one's ever going to ask you to forget, but yeah, the moment you forgive him, you free yourself, don't you?
Yes, yes.
I'm just wondering, where else would you like to take this? You've got about 5 minutes left, where you can, how can people support justice for Shakur McNair? What would you like people to do in order to support you keeping that truth out there?
Connect with me. Allow me to come and speak. Just reaching, going to the Shakur Justice page and seeing what I have on there. I'm actually posting stuff today. Read up on the story, ask me questions, just connect me with whatever they have going on, so that I could be a part of what somebody else is got going on, and they be a part of what I'm planning on to take place in the near future.
How long do you think it's going to be before the book is ready? Just a rough guess. I know you can't say exactly when, because it's a work in progress. But how long are you looking to give you're planning on this project?
I plan on having it finished by next year. This time next year, I'll be through with it. Because I had it wrote up, but it got messed up in the storm, so I'm starting all over. So, yeah, I say the beginning of August of next year, I'll be completed.
Right. Okay. And what's your plans once the book is finished?
To continue writing.
Is this
continue
something?
Writing.
Is this something that you see as almost a therapy to get you through what you're going through as well?
It's definitely my therapy. I write. It's definitely therapy for me, and it helps. The writing, the listening to music, the just talking to other people, just that's therapy for me.
I've said it already, but I'm gonna say it again. You are a truly exceptional and courageous woman, and what you've been through over the last 5 or 6 years in particular, right? 7 years is something that most people would have to live and die 2 or 3 lifetimes. And one of our guests says that you're very brave. I'm trying to find a comment, but I can't see it at the moment. But Lisa Watson D Rushton, to her friends, is just pointing out the fact that she thinks that you're a very brave woman. And she wanted me to read out her comments, but I can't see it. Donna Tresesi is going to reach out to you. So you'll be getting a message from her.
Okay.
These are very strong and positive women who are, and if I'm correct, I think Donna Tresesi is actually an attorney. So
wow. Okay.
They've got a powerful group of people who have come together, banded together for a common goal, a common cause, which is that they've all, at one point or another, lost a dear loved one at the hands of a police officer, and they comfort and support one another. It's a very good and powerful support group. So please do what you can to connect with them and respond when they do contact you, because they will. Donna has just confirmed. No, she's not. It was somebody else that was on the show that was the attorney. But it was Donna knows attorneys anyway, don't worry. She knows them. She got them, right? She got them. She got you.
Okay.
And she'll be able to signpost you alongside the groups and organizations that they're involved with. Is there any last things that you would like to she works at a family meat packing business. That's what she does. She packs meat. But never mind. But yeah. Okay, but yeah, there are attorneys and stuff available through the group and the organization. So, but just connect with it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we kind of bring this down to wind this down?
No, that will be it.
Okay, well, Donna, at this precise moment in time, I just really want to thank you for being part of Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio and honouring us and trusting in us enough to share your story, your life story, your son's story. It's an honour to be able to come alongside and support individuals and families like yourselves who have gone through and been through what you've been through. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and all of those that are involved with us, because we are a growing network. I've met some of these. When I say I've met them, I've connected with them. And Donna Chizese, Donna Hayes, Yolanda McNair, Latara Smith, and all the others that have come along, Candice Brewer, and you name them. We've got a massive connection here through Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio, and we'll keep the lines open so that we can continue to support you from this day going forward.
Thank you.
Well, again, we send our condolences, but most importantly, we send our love. Remember, you're not alone. As for us, we're out of here. This is Kervin Julian on Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio with another exclusive on police brutality. Thank you very much. We're out of here.
Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember, you can also get VIP and shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing. Rebellious like 1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448, or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, doublets, and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life check like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're a World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
just a reminder that there is no show next week, as it's my daughter's birthday.
I paid for my crime. I already did my time.
I'm going to be spending some time doing what daddies do when it's their daughter's birthday.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
But I'll be back on
I paid for my crime. I already
July the 28th.
my crime.
With Jacqueline Minefield Brown.
Back in the day, I didn't really care about this.
With another killed by cops, police brutality.
It was do or die. I had too many rivals.
And another mother crying.
Stay in school. I learned
for the loss of her son.
There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick.
So don't forget to join me on July the 28th.
I had girls all over the street.
For another exclusive on World Jam Global Radio.
Change, the whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man, don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell.
If you've just tuned in, you've caught me at the end of a show. This is Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio. We're live every Saturday night between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. British Standard Time.
Already did my time. I paid for my...
Would like to thank each and every one of you that have joined me on the show today. And a special thank you and shout out to Afrika Bennett for honoring us by sharing her story right here on World Jam Global Radio.
Superfly, but I never got home my own supply. I'm not proud.
Don't forget, if you've got a story that you want to share,
Story to you and
you can contact us on www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
Stupid shit.
Catch me, Kervin Julian, on Facebook.
The life I used to live.
Issues Today on Twitter or Facebook
So numb, I was...
and all other social media platforms.
Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time.
I want to say a special shout out to all of those that have joined the show for the first time today.
My time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime.
It was a pleasure having you guys on board.
My crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I'm trying to get this felony off my back so I can get my life on track and have the right to vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short.
Just a quick reminder of a future upcoming show.
Already
on the 18th of August.
I paid for my
We're going back to revisit a show we done a few years ago.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
I'm going to have Jackie Kendrick Johnson
Already did my time.
live on here.
Crime.
And we're going to be talking about the Kendrick Johnson
I paid for my crime.
murder. And this time
Did my time.
we're going to leave no stone unturned as we do some huge name calling.
I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I know
And we get an update
fly. I'm not
on what's going on with the investigation.
I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent. I must admit, I was doing
I'll fill you in a bit more on future shows before that.
over since
But that's one to look out for on the 18th of August.
I was young and dumb,
We're going back to revisit the Kendrick Johnson show.
but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters. Already did my time.
Don't forget you can share this live stream
Time. Already did.
on your Facebook, on your friends groups, and
Already did.
just share it out. Make sure everybody gets to see these shows.
Now he could be facing
We'll leave no stone unturned in trying to get to the truth. Once again, thank you, each and every one of you, and the World Jam Global Radio management team. As for me, Kervin Julian, I'm out of here.
Trying to cope with this living here. Yes, I am. 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 Trying to cope with this living here. This living hell. This living hell. This living hell. I already did my time. I paid for my crime. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.